Hey guys, Aaron Farmer here with mysugarfreejourney.com, and today we're going to answer the question why you should eat more salt when you are on a ketogenic diet. So I appreciate you watching this. Remember that if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to give you lots of great information, and hit the notification bell every time I get a new video that comes up. You'll get a notification of that as well. So whenever we talk about some of the issues that come up when on a ketogenic diet, there's usually 3 things that you can do to fix whatever that issue, whatever the issue is, and it's almost always some variation of eat more fat, drink more water, and eat more salt. So we've talked in other videos about the eating more fat and the drinking more water. So today I want to talk about why you should eat more salt. This is a very important issue to me because it was a very difficult thing for me to do when I first started the ketogenic diet because I have very, very high blood pressure, very high blood pressure. My normal, before I started losing weight when I was 400 pounds, my normal everyday blood pressure was about 200 over 160. And that is not an exaggeration. At one point, it was measured at 236 over like 185 or something like that. In fact, the paramedic who measured that, she almost had a heart attack because she'd never seen a blood pressure that high. So taking care of my blood pressure was my primary concern when starting the ketogenic diet. And so being told to start eating more salt when I've been told all my life that salt was causing high blood pressure, it was tricky. I had to really do some research on this before I did it. So one of the first things a doctor would tell you to do if you have high blood pressure is to cut your salt. You may have heard of the DASH diet. It consists primarily of veggies, lean protein, low-fat dairy, fruits, and whole grains with no added sodium. Well, guess what else that diet also happens to be very low in? It also happens to be very low in sugar. So the DASH diet does help you reduce your blood pressure, but it does it primarily through the mechanism of cutting out sugar, not through the mechanism of cutting out salt. In fact, according to a 2010 University of Louisiana study, reducing your dietary sugar has a much higher impact on your blood pressure than added salt. So I want to go over the sugar aspect of this first, and then at the end we're going to talk about why you should be adding more salt to your diet as well. So a couple things. One of the reasons why sugar raises your blood pressure is sugar is hydrophilic. What that means is it tends to absorb water. So if you have high levels of blood sugar, it will tend to absorb water, which creates a larger volume of fluid in your veins and arteries, which increases, that increased volume increases your blood pressure. Number 2, insulin resistance blocks magnesium. So insulin helps your body store magnesium, but if you are insulin resistant, and again, if you are obese, you are pretty much by definition insulin resistant. Your cells won't take up the insulin or the magnesium that comes along with it. So magnesium stored in cells relaxes your muscles, and without it, the blood vessels in your body can become much more rigid, which increases your blood pressure. On a personal note, once I started taking magnesium supplements, I saw a huge drop in my overall blood pressure as well. I also had an easier time sleeping through the night. I'm a big believer in good, high-quality magnesium supplements. At the end, I'll tell you where I get them if you're interested. Also, number 3, fructose elevates uric acid. So the metabolization of fructose produces uric acid, which blocks nitric oxide in your blood vessels. Nitric oxide, it increases your blood vessels elasticity. So anything that inhibits nitric oxide will increase blood pressure. So just by way of a personal story, when I reduced my salt intake for years. In fact, I never salted my food when I was 400 pounds. I just didn't do it. I never had any success with that, lowering my blood pressure. But after I cut out the sugar, I almost immediately saw about a 20-point drop in my blood pressure. And then when I started taking magnesium supplements, I saw about another 15-point drop in my blood pressure. Granted, my blood pressure was sky high. and my blood pressure is still high. It's still not normal, but it's much better than it was before. And it has gotten progressively better over the years on a ketogenic diet. So that's why you should avoid sugar if you have high blood pressure. But what about eating salt? So it turns out salt is not only beneficial, but it's absolutely necessary on a ketogenic diet. And so here's the main reason. When you start cutting out the carbs, you also start reducing the amount of glycogen your body stores, since glucose is required to make glycogen. You're not eating carbohydrates, or very many carbohydrates, so your body doesn't have that ready access to the glucose it used to. Glycogen is stored in a roughly 1-to-4 mix with water in your muscles, so as glycogen levels drop, you also start shedding a large amount of water. This is why weight loss can be very rapid in the first few weeks of a low-carb, high-fat diet. Most of that you're losing in the beginning is just stored water. As the body flushes out all that excess water, a lot of salt and other minerals go with it. Replacing that water and that salt is crucial, especially in those first few weeks. In fact, the dehydration that can occur if you don't up your salt and water intake is why many people have the keto flu, or they can be very miserable the first month that they're on a ketogenic diet, because their body's switching over to being fat adapted, and they just haven't crossed that barrier yet. It is very crucial, especially in those early days, but really for however long you're on the ketogenic diet, that you always take special care to drink enough water and to eat more salt, especially good high quality salt. And you can take as much as 3,500 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium per day. Your kidneys are totally fine filtering that amount of salt out of your bloodstream, and that's a lot of salt. High quality salt, what I mean by that is you probably want to stay away from a very processed salt like Morton's, because Morton's is just straight sodium. There's just sodium chloride. There's no other really trace minerals in it. If you can get a more natural salt, I love Redmond's Real Salt. That's kind of our personal salt that we use here, but any kind of Celtic salt, any kind of Himalayan pink salt, any of these salts are going to have more trace minerals, that the other things that your body needs, like magnesium, potassium, and the sodium, obviously. If you have more questions about this, there's a fantastic book that has been written by Dr. James DiNicolantonio. It's called The Salt Fix. I can't recommend that book enough. That book was really a game changer for me learning about this, because it has all the science and all the different tests that have been run and shown that sugar is far more dangerous to your body than salt, and salt is not something to be feared. I'm thankful to Dr. DiNicolantonio for writing that book. So I would definitely check that out. But in short, don't be afraid of salt, especially if you have high blood pressure. Cut out the sugar. Cutting out the sugar is going to be far more beneficial to your overall health, to your weight, and to your blood pressure than cutting out salt will ever be. All right, appreciate you guys watching. If you like this video, again, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys, and come on over to the blog, mysugarfreejourney.com. I'd love to say hi to you there. All right, appreciate you guys watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.